I made a video earlier today about the YouTuber BionicDance, and a person left a comment below that video, so I thought I'd respond to it. Now, this person agrees with me on a point I made, that BionicDance makes a number of very crass generalisations. I think I'll go into detail actually, because a little bit of detail will clarify what I mean. Amongst others, BionicDance seems to suggest that if you're a believer in some kind of supernatural paranormal, you're probably not smart. In fact, you're probably dim if you don't agree with her and her points. I could be getting the wrong end of the stick, couldn't I? But that seems to be what she's saying. You know, if you don't accept what she says as being rationally true, you're a chowderhead, basically. The whole all babies argument is in many ways redundant and irrelevant. You may as well say all dogs are atheists. All babies are atheists. Well, maybe they're agnostic. Maybe they're heathens. Maybe they're none of the above. And in my video on Rob Lester blogs, made around about 9 months ago, I made that very point. I also used clips from an Agent of Doubt video where he used clips of Richard Dawkins making the very same point. The fact is, it's kind of ridiculous to label children as anything.
Conscious assumptions we all make about religion. Let me try a little experiment on you. At Christmas time one year, my newspaper in Britain, The Independent, was looking for a seasonal picture, and they found a heartwarmingly ecumenical one at a school nativity play. The three wise men were played by Shadbreet, a Sikh, Musharraf, a Muslim, and Adele, a Christian, all aged 4. Now my guess is that you probably think that picture's rather sweet. How nice that 4-year-olds who belong to different religions should come together in a nativity play. Now suppose the caption said this: Shadbreet, a socialist, Musharraf, a conservative, and Adele, a liberal, all aged 4. Shadbreet, an atheist, Musharraf, an agnostic, and Adele, a secular humanist, all aged 4. I'm trying to raise consciousness. I hope that that series of 3 slides has raised your consciousness. I hope that every time from now on you hear anybody talking about, say, a Catholic child, or a Protestant child, or a Muslim child, you will protest. You will say, you wouldn't talk about a postmodernist child, or a Keynesian child, or a Hayekian monetarist child. There is no such thing as a Catholic child. There's only a child of Catholic parents. There's no such thing as a Protestant child. Only a child of Protestant parents. There's no such thing as a Muslim child. Only a child of Muslim parents. I repeat these slogans over and over again, probably too often. Too often? It can't be too often when you're in the business of consciousness raising. Please join me in protesting every time you hear anyone ever referring to a Catholic child, a Christian child, a Muslim child, etc.
Just to clarify, to remove the label from children who have religious parents as being of that religion, that's to say a 4-year-old or even a newborn, from being described as a Catholic baby or child, or a Muslim baby or child, or a Methodist baby or child, all we need to do is allow that freedom for them to be what they are. Human beings who will come to choices in later life, whether through free expression or indoctrination. We need not impose the label of atheist. And considering children are not in this debate, at least not until they reach a level where communication and indeed debate is possible, it's irrelevant to call babies atheists. You know, this aspect annoys me. How a person generalises so much when it comes down to Christians. Because they're not all the same. In fact, if you look at the different sects out there, or at least the major ones, you will see there are massive differences between those groups. And with Christianity, you're barely scratching the surface of, well, theology in general. It's merely one major aspect, which is full of many different sects. I can only assume that your generalisation is to mean outspoken and often fundamentalist Christians when you say Christian. However, you have not fully explained this, and indeed it isn't always the case. So it does make you look a tad foolish. Most Christians are not politically involved in their religion. They have devout people who are, and the devout ones are the ones who protest, the ones who make a lot of noise, and sometimes they get some of their fellow believers on board for a protest or some kind of action against something they disagree with. Worse in the United States and other parts of the world where fundamentalism is deeply rooted, lesser in other parts of the world. But even so, most people who call themselves Christian are not out there on the streets with billboards or preaching the end or saying that gay marriage should be banned or that gay people should be banned or anything like this. Most are not there trying to impose young earth creationism in science class. It's usually a minority of very loud, very angry, devout people worked up into a frenzy by some fundamentalist preacher or by some Catholic priest who does not like the idea of abortions anywhere near his church. But most people who are believers, whether moderate or not, are not heavily involved politically in their religion. Ask yourself, who is the real enemy? Who is the real foe? Is it the average religious person who really does no real great impact on society? They look after their family, they live out their lives, they preferably work for a living. Is it them? Or is it a small minority of extremists? Whether we talk about terrorism, whether we talk about people protesting abortion clinics, whether we talk about people saying no gay marriage, whether we talk about people who are trying to lobby schools to enforce religious propaganda into science class, such as young earth creationism in the form of creation science. Are we talking about the masses of religious people trying to impose this? Or a hard inner core, a fanatical following of very specific cult elements within Christianity? Christianity is not the problem, or any religion for that matter. It's elements of those religions. Elements that we do not like. Elements that may be repugnant or even horrible. And those aspects, those pivotal points which we can focus on, can be dealt with. If we focus on the key points, we can deal with those key issues. And not only that, by focusing on those points and not on religion in general, you're more likely to have religious people, probably moderate religious people, join you in opposing extremism. What could we achieve together, I wonder? What could we do if we put our heads together, the vast majority of us, and actually tried to make society better? Not merely staying in our group, not staying as Christian or atheist or Muslim or Hindu or Jewish or agnostic or deist or agnostic or whatever, but instead coming together in common cause for the betterment of society. What could we achieve? I would argue, what could we not achieve? If we're able to get around past these few extremists who speak out and do harm, who try and damage society and hold back progress, we could move forward with an energy unrivaled in history.